Hello and welcome to Debating the State of Europe. I'm Joe Lidobarski. I'm the editor of Debating Europe, and we're here in Brussels. I've got three panelists with me today, and we are debating some of the many challenges facing the European Union today for the Friends of Europe's annual State of Europe roundtable, which is a high-level roundtable bringing together senior policymakers, civil society representatives and business leaders together in Brussels. But we would like to open it up a little bit and get some questions which have been sent in specifically from young people from across Europe asking about some of these important issues which are affecting all Europeans. So we're going to go round the table and see what our panel has to say to these young people. We're going to start with, we have Maria Stratigaki, who's the Vice Mayor of Athens responsible for social solidarity. Next to her is László Andor, who's the former European Commissioner for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. And last but not least, we have Marietje Schaake, who's a Dutch MEP with the the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe. Let's move in straight away to the first question, which has been sent in from the Netherlands. It's from Joke, and it's on the current refugee crisis.
Hi, I'm Joke Minne. I'm from Belgium. I'm part of the European movement, and I have a question for you. In the light of recent published action plan by the Commission and Turkey, what could the European Union possibly propose if they are talking about providing legal ways for refugees when entering Europe?
So not from the Netherlands, from Belgium, but let's start with Marietje. The refugee crisis is obviously one of the biggest crises that the European Union has faced in its entire existence. Now, the question there is about opening up legal channels for refugees, and possibly also about cooperation with Turkey, which is hosting more refugees than any other country in the world at the moment. How would you respond to this young person, to Joke?
Well, first of all, I agree that this is a crisis, but it is a crisis we can manage. If we look back in my own country, the Netherlands, to the years where the former Yugoslav republic was falling apart in a terrible war, we had about double the amount of people coming to our country, and we were able to manage. So I think the attitude should be this is a problem we can tackle. And it's good that Turkey has now asked for cooperation. Initially, they wanted to shelter the refugees from Syria alone. And I think it is key that people are given the kind of shelter and food and medicine and education that we are required to provide for people fleeing war by international law. And we are now paying the price, unfortunately, for a lack of European cooperation and lack of a European approach to asylum and migration. And I hope that leaders of the member states of the EU will recognize that there's a European solution to this, that we have to work together and that we have to do the appropriate measures to both register people, make sure that there is no criminals or dangerous individuals passing through with the refugees, but that people who deserve asylum and shelter are treated in a dignified way.
Okay, Maria, let's turn to you. Greece, of course, is a country which is on the front lines of the refugee crisis. What would you say to Joke?
First of all, I would like to say that for Greece now it's a tragic time. I mean, we are receiving thousands of people. They camp in the center of Athens, in the squares, in the parks of Athens, and it is a major problem for our everyday life in the city of Athens. I think that it is a political issue. It is a European issue. It's not a Greek one. It's a political issue, and I think that the way that decision making is made in Europe is a problem. I think unanimity of the Council has to be let's say, changed, and Europe has to be more quick and effective in decisions. I think this is a very big thing. So practically, now that we are at this point that people are coming through the sea and not through the airports or airplanes, because if there was a decision earlier about all these things, we could have a more human way to bring all these people in Europe. I think that now the only thing we can say is exactly to try to keep less flow to Europe and to Greece. And I would see whatever possible negotiation with Turkey would be okay. What Greece does not want is that we control the borders together with Turkey, because you know between Greece and Turkey there are other political issues over this very sensitive line. So I think there will be some decision, but for the moment we are really at a very big problems.
Okay, and László, what would you add?
I would like to underline that the legal ways of immigration function well if there is trust in the system. The national leaders, but also the European leaders, should not only upgrade the existing EU legislation and rules about entry, but they should also do their utmost to build trust. Trust in the EU cooperation, but also trust in the people who arrive and who had to leave their home country, their homeland, because of war and violence and terror. And sometimes the national leaders or some other politicians, because of short-sightedness, do not do their job. Sometimes they are prone to populistic tendencies rather than constructive policies. But trust can be built if there is solidarity, if the EU countries help each other, especially the countries of entry like Greece or Hungary or Italy, which face all these challenges on their own border. But also we also need to help the countries where most of the refugees want to go, because one or two countries cannot host all of the refugees or immigrants who come to Europe. There has to be some kind of burden sharing, and that's also a way to build trust.